What kind of life do we lead when we put ourselves first and others last? What kind of world encourages us to tread all over others and always be first? What would Jesus say about the first and last in society? Let's examine the incredible blessing of following Jesus to a life of taking last place so that we can serve others. Let's look at Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16. The parable of the workers in the vineyard and its implications for today. Did Jesus promote the wine industry? In Matthew 20, verse 1, Jesus said, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard." In an age when refrigeration and pasteurization were unknown, grape juice was commonly preserved as wine. Some try to be more righteous than Jesus, but the gospel writers openly wrote about Jesus and wine. Grace is risky. Pharisaic rules remove risk, but also grace. Someone might get drunk, yet Jesus turned water into wine, drank with sinners, and used wine as one of the elements of the Lord's Supper. He even used the grape harvest in parables. Why were the latecomers in the parable of the vineyard workers put first? In Matthew 20, verse 8, Jesus spoke of the end of a harvest day. So when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, "Call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first." Let's understand the context. Jesus' disciples quarreled openly for position. They spurned widows and children who attempted to talk to Jesus. This attitude is not tolerated in God's kingdom. Those who arrogantly puff themselves up and look down on others will be last in heaven. The last were put first, so the first could learn something. Are older Christians or older churches more entitled? The parable of the vineyard workers teaches us about this common attitude. In Matthew 20, verses 9 and 10, we read, "When those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they received each a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed they would receive more, and they likewise received each a denarius." How long we've served God does not give us greater entitlements. In heaven, there's a great reversal. The first will be last, and the last first. Let's not allow position or tenure to delude us into thinking we're better than anyone. They may be our boss in heaven. Could the Old Testament law of redistribution, the Jubilee, work today? The super wealthy would certainly complain. In Matthew 20, verse 12, in the parable of the vineyard workers, the all-day workers complained about equal pay. "You made them equal to us who have borne the burden and the heat of the day." This is a parable of entitlement versus need. Are wealthy people entitled to grossly excessive salaries, which they have the power to get, but perhaps not the need? Jesus' subversive parable teaches that the kingdom of heaven is not based on entitlement, but need. None of us is entitled to heaven, yet we all have need of life after death. Why did a vintner in Jesus' parables hire harvesters several times during the day? The only indication why is he saw people who needed work. The farmer paid workers the same, whether working all day or only the last hour. He explained in Matthew 20, verse 15, "Isn't it lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is your eye evil because I am good?" God provides generously for the most needy. Jewish Christians are the same as Gentiles, and the most ancient churches are the same as the newest. The parable is thus about the goodness, the mercy of God, the good or generous employer. What's an evil eye? In Matthew 20:15, Jesus asked, "Is your eye evil because I'm good?" Freiberg explains that an evil eye is an attitude of envy, greed, or stinginess. When we want first place, or all the best just for ourselves, that's an evil eye. When we believe that others are undeserving of positions because they've not been around as long as we, that's an evil eye. In the kingdom of heaven, the first will be last and the last will be first. Human perceptions of what we deserve are not heaven's. Jesus set the example. Let's follow Jesus' example and put ourselves last. Why did Jesus say in Matthew 20, verse 16, that in the kingdom of heaven the last will be first and the first last? Many so-called little people are big in heaven's eyes. Why is the janitor the happiest person in the building? Why is the widow the one with the most encouraging word? Why is the wisdom of an old man in a nursing home the greatest thing you've heard all week? Why does the poor farmer out working in his field sing so loudly? Why does the blue-collar worker live longer and have a happier marriage than the billionaire? These are great secrets of the kingdom of heaven. The world is upside down. The arrogant, the narcissistic, the greedy who have chosen first place in this life have chosen the last place in heaven. The selfless, the generous, the serving, who often choose last place in this life, are rewarded with first place in heaven. The great reversal is coming. Where will we be?